Smithson Hill is a joint venture between Russell Smith Farms and Hill Commercial Limited. Together we own about 530 acres south of Cambridge, near Hingston. One thing's become apparent as we've been working on the project with our team of leading experts is transportation is a problem. Having lived in the area, having worked in the area over the last 10 to 15 years, it's become apparent that transport issues are getting worse. Before we even embark on our project, we want to really tackle things head on, and talking to others, they feel the same. So we want to work together with the parishes, with the parks, and bring together a long-term plan in order to actually look at all the issues affecting the area and try and tackle things head on. So the real question is, why do we want to do this? Well, we all want to protect the world-class status of the parks and also the villages around them, which are some of the most beautiful in Cambridgeshire. Working together, we think we can all make a real difference. So how are we going to achieve this? Well, it has to be through collaborative working. It's the parishes and the parks coming together in order to achieve something that provides greater strength in numbers. Everyone has the same aim, everybody has the same goal, and that's to make an improvement in the current transport system and also to future-proof it against further development. But what can we all do? The real passion behind this is to create a fully integrated plan, something that everybody can turn to, a plan that lasts for the next 25 years. So when there is more development, we can see what the plan says is the next stage to do. Together we can achieve what our aims are, and that's for better transportation in the whole of the cluster area. So let's look at the city deal and the plans for Greater Cambridge. If you look at the Greater Cambridge area, there is growth to the north in Waterbeach, to the northwest in Northstowe, and out to the west to Camborne and Bourne. In terms of the commercial growth, you've got the biomedical campus directly to the south of Cambridge and the science parks around. But here in the southeast cluster, we have growth on the parks already, and in the next 5 years there is a massive number of people who will be coming based on the success of the area. Together with the vibrant villages around and the success that they bring, we'll see a massive increase in the number of people coming through and coming on to work in the parks in this area. Looking at the city deal plans, a lot of the focus has been around the residential growth and not the current commercial growth that could occur. We wish to try and speak to the city deal people and influence where they will be spending their money in the second tranche, especially along the A1307, which they're currently concentrating on, but also linking into how that joins in with the A505, the M11 and also the A11 as well. So let's look at the cluster in greater detail. The South East cluster comprises some of the world's leading institutions and some of the prettiest villages in South Cambridgeshire and North Uttlesford. In the cluster you have Welcome, you have Granta, TWI, Babraham, Northwest Biotherapeutics moving to the former Spicer site, Sawston Business Park, Iconics Park and Chesterford Park to the south. The villages themselves are some of the prettiest in the area: Hingston, Ickleton, Duxford, Whittlesford, and the list goes on. Together with the parishes and the parks, we wish to protect the area in terms of transportation and how we keep moving round. The A11, the M11 and the A505 come together in this area. You can go north, south, east, west. To the east you have Haverhill, to the northeast you have growth coming down from Suffolk, to the west you have growth from Hertfordshire, and to the south growth from Uttlesford. The whole area is coming together and really growing, but we need to protect and make sure everyone can keep moving. Also in the mix is housing growth. With all the jobs, further growth for housing is needed, and Uttlesford currently have 2 areas of search for 3,000 homes and also 700 homes to the north of Great Chesterford. It is essential that transportation issues are dealt with now and a long-term plan and vision is achieved, in order that all this growth can be accommodated and people can still keep moving around the cluster. But how does the South East cluster fit in the bigger picture? Currently there is a consortium called the London Stansted Cambridge Corridor Consortium who are looking at the interactions along the whole length between London and Cambridge. For Cambridge is linked to London and London is also linked back to Cambridge, and how people work and live along the corridor is incredibly important. For us, the node around the cluster involves the M11, the A11, the A505 and allows people to branch off in various directions as they're coming up the M11 corridor. It also is an area that benefits from Whittlesford Station, with links to Stansted Airport, to Cambridge and also to London. For us, it's an easy win. People here want change, are willing to accept change, but not at all cost. The support from the consortium is essential to ensure that the transport issues for the area are dealt with head-on. So let's look at the problem today. In terms of looking at the annual daily traffic counts, the A505 is taking somewhere between 20 and 25,000 car movements a day. That's a massive amount for a small road that isn't dualled along the whole length. But to put it into context, we need to have a look at the increase in annual traffic movements that have occurred between 2000 and 2014. If we look at the A14 to the north, there's been an annual increase in traffic movements of around 7,500. But on the A11 there has been a massive growth of approximately 11,500. The A505 has seen just under 5,000, and in comparison to Madingley Hill, who's seen about 4,500. So whilst maybe the traffic impact is not being seen quite as readily as the A14, the area has seen a massive growth in traffic coming both through and along the corridor and up the side of the cluster. This is only set to continue as the success of our neighbouring counties and growth happens, and therefore we need to really tackle the future growth and make sure anything that we do takes that into account. But when we focus in on the cluster, what's interesting is to look at the modal split between the people who live in the parishes in the cluster and those who work in the cluster. And really what's very evident is there is a massive dependence on cars. For those living in the cluster, about 74% of the people use their car, and for those working in the cluster, it's about 78%. If you look at bus usage, it's very low. And if you also look at the train usage, that's a massive area of growth that is untapped at the moment, which could really be enhanced to make sure that people actually living and working in the area can get to and from home and to and from work. But what's also interesting is the locational draw. If we look at the statistics for those living in the cluster, most people are actually working in Cambridge. And for those working in the cluster, the largest locational draw is also Cambridge. So it's a reverse position, those living in the cluster working Cambridge and those working in the cluster coming from Cambridge. And the second largest draw for those working in the area come from the villages around. So the fact that there is some synergy shows there must be some sort of transport solution which serves both the parishes and those people working in the parks. But let's look at some data from Savills. If you look closely, you see that more people are coming to work in the cluster from areas to the north and to the east. The increasing house prices in Cambridge have seen people move out further to places like Ely, Newmarket, Bury St Edmunds, Red Lodge and Haverhill. But those areas to the cluster are poorly served in terms of public transport, and therefore it's just increasing the use of cars to the area. So let's look at the potential threats. The south-east side of Cambridge has the multiple impact of organic growth. The growth of the biomedical campus to the north, the regional growth around Cambridge, growth of Haverhill to the east, and also the developments along the corridor to the south. More people are using Whittlesford Station with its links to Stansted, to Liverpool Street and also to Cambridge to the north, and that is only going to increase. There's reduced public transport for those people living in the villages who find it increasingly difficult to catch a bus at a regular time. But it's house prices that are really forcing people to look at reliance on the car, forcing them to move further out, and therefore more parking is needed both at the station and on the parks. But we shouldn't be hanging on to the threats. Instead, we should actually be embracing what are the opportunities. There are many opportunities for all of us in the cluster to make a difference. We could improve the A505. Let's look at the McDonald's roundabout, and also how can we make Whittlesford Station a more appealing destination and ensure that the parking issues are dealt with in the village. Let's look at the park and ride system. On the basis we're reviewing the A1307, let's look at moving a bigger park and ride out, which could benefit more of the villages and more of the parks in the surrounding area. An integrated car sharing practice must be achievable in this area of high technology and high car usage. This has to be a key area which we could tackle. And also we should be looking at cycling. How can we get people cycling between the hubs, cycling to the station, and manage more people getting a better balance between a healthy lifestyle and getting to work? We could be leading the way on a fully integrated transport system, utilising the brains of Cambridge, the Internet of Things, and really seeing what we could achieve if we put our minds to this transport issue. But also access to Stansted, its increasing growth in flights, its freight and its rail links. Let's look at how the whole area benefits from the use of Stansted and how we could make the railway system into London better, more efficient and more timely, and a better way of using it when you're actually on it. So let's really try and use our collective brainpower to think about the solutions. All of the parks have their own bus system that comes from Cambridge to the parks and other surrounding locations. Surely these buses could also be utilised for those members of the public in the villages. Many of the buses return back to Cambridge empty, and there must be a way that we can integrate those fully into the village life and also serve everybody in the cluster. And how about a new park and ride site that could service Cambridge, which takes traffic directly off the A11? One suggestion is a larger park and ride site just at the junction of the A11 and the A1307. You could take people off on a slip road directly into the park and ride, and also then let them travel on into Cambridge, integrating with the service from Haverhill and Linton. And at the same time, we could also sort out the transport issues crossing the A1307 with 4 wentways. As you will see, Google Car also picked up on the fact that people chop across the A1307 and therefore causes a massive problem in terms of getting over and across. With a new set of traffic lights serving the new park and ride site, this whole transport problem and this nightmare area could be resolved. When questioned why people don't use public transport, and especially the buses, one of the biggest issues is cost. For people coming out of Cambridge, the cost is significant after you pass a park and ride site. So let's speak to Stagecoach and see if we can encourage them to move the cost of the day ticket further out to the parks in order that people can travel around the whole of the Cambridge sub-region for the same price and the same ticket. But one of the biggest issues is the A505 and how can we tackle the traffic along it. From one end of Duxford all the way to the A11, it varies in dualling to single carriageway, traffic lights, roundabouts, and causes bottlenecks along the whole length. Increasingly now, people are queuing on the M11 to get up the slipway, and at peak times the congestion is terrible, especially around McDonald's roundabout. So what could we do to improve McDonald's roundabout? Looking within the existing geometry, could we add a filter lane to the left, or possibly even a slightly humorous burger roundabout with the traffic going straight through the middle? All of these are achievable with the existing geometry, but then there's further questions like how do we integrate the cycle and pedestrian links across the roundabout? But these debates need to happen and we need to look for solutions. Other novel ideas could include a flyover to the north or possibly even rising cycleways over and above the roundabout. Again, all these things should be discussed, and possibly the best ideas are out there with members of the public in the parishes or working at the parks who could come up with an innovative way of treating and solving the transport problems. And let's look at Whittlesford Parkway Station. This is a station which needs significant improvement if people are actually going to use it. It has regular links to Stansted, links to London and links to Cambridge. It is an underutilised resource right in the middle of the cluster. There's no cycle park on the southbound side going to London. There's no ticket machine on the southbound side going to London. And there's currently no footpath going between the station and the station car park. When you look more closely, there's always a pile of mud just as you're coming out of the car park, and the capacity of the car park is nearly always full. Increasingly, people are also parking in Whittlesford Village and parking out almost as far as Duxford Air Museum. Really, the parking needs to be addressed because this is only going to increase. Once the biomedical campus station is open and with further improvements on the Liverpool Street line, more people will wish to park at Whittlesford Parkway Station and this needs to be accommodated. But one of the biggest issues with Whittlesford is that a bus can't actually get down to the station and the drop-off zone is terrible. So let's have a look at Whittlesford as being a transport hub. Whittlesford Parkway was always designed as a parkway station where people could park their cars and commute. but this needs to be opened up to accommodate the growth in commuters that the area will soon see. Let's look at putting a bus station actually on the existing car park, having a turning circle, proper disabled parking, and make the whole area more inviting. Let's utilise some of the areas around to increase the car parking capacity, but also make better cycle links both to Sawston and out across the roundabout and to Baberham and Grant beyond. The whole area could do with really revitalising and making sure it functions properly both now and in the future. So what's happening now? Those already working within the Cambridge South East cluster and the parks have seen that this needs to happen. The parishes too believe that a long-term vision is what the whole area needs. So working together, a 25-year plan has to be the answer. So when there is money available from government, be it City Deal, be it Section 106, we can put it towards the next stage of the plan. We don't want cycleways to nowhere, we want joined up thinking that ensures that the whole area functions, both parishes and parks. For the parks, it's about maintaining their world-class status and attracting the best people to come and work here. For the parishes, it's about maintaining a quality of life, ensuring that their villages function, whilst accepting that growth around them is taking place. But together we are stronger, together we can achieve, and together a 25-year plan will really make a difference to the cluster and will benefit all.